Hi everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp. It's the time of the week, every week, where we look at the hugest sales on the eShop. Now, all of these sales, to be fair, are the lowest price that they've ever been. And all thanks goes to Deku Deals. You can check them out on the interwebs. It's an amazing place for finding both physical and digital Nintendo Switch sales. Check the top comment if you want to know who's won our free game this week, and if you want to be in with a chance of winning next week, then just put a comment down below with your most unnormal comment possible. I dread to see what you come up with. Now stick around to the end of the video where we'll be looking at a couple of games that you should avoid, like the Plague. But actually, one of them I went ahead and bought, and it's still probably an avoid, but part of me's kind of enjoying it. So yeah, stick around for that one. What's on sale this week? Well, let's find out. First up, we've got the Sniper Elite V2 and V3 titles, which are some of the best and most well-executed ports on the Nintendo Switch. They feature gyroscopic aiming, as you know I love, but the visuals themselves are just ported over so nicely, and everything runs so well after some of the atrocious ones we've seen come across to the Switch. This is really impressive. Both of these include all of the DLC previously released, as you'd expect, and Rebellion have just nailed it really. They're currently 60% off. They'll take you around about 9 hours to complete, unless you're a completionist, then around about 32, and they clock in at 6.3 gigs. Then there's State of Mind, which we've mentioned a few times on the channel, featuring the one and only Geralt of Rivia, well, not him, but the voice actor who plays him, as the main protagonist in this futuristic blend of what I would describe as Blade Runner meets Westworld, and it's just a really intriguing and well-designed game. Now, one thing I will say about it is, again, it's an excellent version of the title. The graphics look great. In fact, there are some areas that are just really quite impressive. There's quite a few unique gameplay mechanics whereby, for example, you'll be piecing together pieces of memories, and you'll be doing this in a three-dimensional way, almost like a puzzle. There are two parallel stories taking place that gradually get closer and then merge, and you realise what's going on. But overall, an excellent game, and well worth it at 75% off, with a game time of around about 9 hours and a file size of 7.1 gigs. Now, I was loath to put FIFA 20 in, but they've reduced the price so much now that look, if you want a football game, it's okay, it's okay. It's exactly the same as FIFA 19, but obviously you've got all the updated rosters and players, etc. So if you've been holding out, the game itself isn't terrible. It just annoyed me so much that EA thought they could get away with just re-releasing the exact same title, and they reduced it a few times for like 20%, 25%. But now at 70% off, I think I can safely say if you're interested, it's probably the time to pick it up. Go check out some reviews of the old FIFA 19, and you'll know exactly what this one plays like. It lacks some of the best features of the other console versions because it doesn't run on the Frostbite engine, which is, again, it's a real shame when we've seen things like the Cry engine come over and Unreal Engine 4 working okay on the Switch. This one, as mentioned, is 70% off, and it clocks in at 12.5 gigs. Then we've got the Outlast series. We've got both games currently on sale, so I'll show them both on screen, with the first title being around about 75% off, and the second title also being 75% off. These are some of the best horror experiences that you can find. They're also excellent versions on the Nintendo Switch. The visuals are nice and crisp. Well, actually, they're dark and grimy, but that's kind of how they're supposed to look. These are terrifying. I'm not gonna lie, the first time I played the first game, I hid in a cupboard. And I just didn't come out. And then I switched the game off. I came back about 3 years later and finally got past that section. They're just absolutely terrifying. If you don't like scary games, avoid them, but if you've got that kind of masochistic tendency to just scare yourself and horrify yourself, you will love these games. I'm inclined to say that the first title is a little bit better than the second in my opinion, but they're both great. The main story of the first one is going to take about 5 hours with a download size of 5.7 gigs, whereas this second game about 7.5 hours and a download size of 9.6 gigs. Now, Jace Glover reviewed WRC 8 for us on the channel, and there are a few things you should know before you go rushing out to buy it. It is the best rally game on the Nintendo Switch in my opinion, other than I think there's Rush Rally 3, which is also a decent one and has about 60 frames per second. It's a good game, that one, but in terms of fully fledged, sponsored, all the licensed cars, a full career mode, everything you'd want from a rally experience, I would say WRC 8. Now, the things I mentioned though are that there's this weird shimmering graphical effect which is just annoying. It annoyed us. It didn't overly detract from the gameplay. There are a few funky physics moments as well, and that's part and parcel of the engine. It's the same engine that ran V-Rally 4, I believe. It just has some weird quirks every now and then. It's had a couple of patches since launch to make it slightly better, but yeah, it's still a very, very authentic and good rally game, but know about those issues, and again, if you have another platform, then potentially consider picking it up over there. It's 70% off at the moment, and it has a download size of 13.6 gigs. As you'll probably have seen from a few other outlets, Deadly Premonition 2 isn't quite the game we were hoping it would be. The original Deadly Premonition is an excellent title, and it's currently 50% off, which matches its previous lowest ever. If you want to get into the series, then I would strongly suggest playing this because it will give you an idea as to why it's such a hyped game. The storyline takes place around a serial murder that occurs in Greenvale, which is a small town in North America surrounded by beautiful nature. You play as FBI agent York, who sets out with his friend Zach to face the case. It's got an interesting atmosphere, this one, and I think that, as well as the relationship between the main characters, is what kind of drives it. It's quite a long title at around about 18 hours, and it has a download size of 6.7 gigs. Glen loves this game, and it comes highly recommended from him. Now, Hard West was a title I reviewed ages ago. Let's be honest, it's been on sale loads. Like, it tanked in price so quickly. I believe I gave this over 80%. It's an XCOM style tactical strategy game, but it's set in the Wild West. It's a bit like if Red Dead Redemption met XCOM and then you sprinkled some Harry Potter over the top, because there's some strange goings on that happen, including the Walking Dead, but yeah, let's just not go there. It's currently 90% off, taking it down to £1.79, which I believe was the same I paid for a bar of Dairy Milk chocolate yesterday. So this is definitely worth that price. That's an absolute bargain. It comes with all the DLC and other bits and bobs that were originally released on other platforms, and while it's not the prettiest game ever, the core mechanics are solid and a lot of fun can be had here. This one's going to take you around about 13 hours just to do the main story, but if you want to complete everything, you're looking at over 30. It has a download size of 5.6 gigs. Aragami reminded me a little bit of Tenchu's Stealth Assassin, if you remember that back on PlayStation. That was one of my favourite games of all time. I think I remember going into Curry's Dixon's and they let me buy it. I mean, I must have been about 8 years old, and I bowled in and bought it, but I think back in the day, no one really looked at the age ratings on games, but this was an 18, like this was well and truly an 18. I was playing it in my front room, my mum walked in, and let's just put it this way, it was game over, till I discovered where she'd hid it and completed it. A really interesting title, this one. It has a strange mechanic whereby you can jump from shadow to shadow. Unfortunately, at launch, the shadow draw distance wasn't the best, which made jumping from shadow to shadow a bit of an issue. It's better now. It's not, in my opinion, as good a game as Tenchu was, but for this price, I'd say it's worth it. It's going to take you around about 7 hours to complete the main story, with a download size of 3.6 gigs. Phantom Doctrine. I played this one a long time ago actually. It didn't get much attention, even from us if I'm completely honest. But again, at this price it deserves it. A little bit like Hard West. It's a similar type of game, but this time it's a bit more of a espionage thriller. It's set in and around the peak of the Cold War, and it has a huge 40+ hour campaign mode and some nice little gameplay tweaks that make it a little bit more akin to something like Commandos, and you get a bit more choice in where you place the different assets that you have available to you. At 90% off, again, same price as what, a bag of chips, you can't really go wrong. This carries an 18 rating as well, and it's 6.5 gigs. Last but not least, we've got Rogue Trooper Redux. This is from Rebellion again, but this was one of the first games they released on the Switch. It's currently 66% off, which is its all-time best price, but it only goes on for a couple of days, so you've got to be quite quick with this. The main storyline here is going to take around about 5 hours, but it can go up to 9 hours if you're going to try and find everything. This is a classic title, so for that reason, don't expect it to look modern. It has been given the HD graphics treatment, there are remodeled assets, dynamic lighting, all of that fun stuff, but the most important aspect is that they included more modern controls as well as new difficulty modes. There are 13 missions, and if you're familiar with the Rogue Trooper comic books, a lot of those missions take place in iconic places from those graphic novels. 66% off and a 7.56 GB download. So it's that wonderful time that we love each and every week, where we look at 2 games that you should absolutely avoid, like a public toilet cubicle without a lock on it. We've all been there, haven't we? And you're holding it closed, and oh, it's a horrible feeling, and then someone tries to get in, and you make a grunt to try and let them know to release their vice-like grip. Well, the first of them is Nickelodeon Kart Racer. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not the worst game ever. It's not the worst. It's just not the best. Unfortunately, when you've got a name like Nickelodeon and the amount of amazing IPs they have, this should have been incredible. This should have carried with it such character and charm, but it just doesn't. From the music to the voice acting, there's nothing here that stands out, and yes, it's got a nice chunky discount, but really, just pay the extra and get Mario Kart. You're not going to be blown away by this. Now, that being said, if you've got kids, they're not going to care, are they? They play with Race with Ryan and enjoy it. Ay caramba. The next game, and this is the one I was talking about at the start because I bought it, is Hunting Simulator. This has got a massive reduction at the moment, and I wanted something nice and relaxing. Well, nice and relaxing where you blow the head off sheep. It's not terrible. I think this is a bit of a guilty pleasure, really. I don't know if I can tell you. I should really just say avoid this at all costs, but part of me is kind of enjoying it, even though it is janky. The visuals run on the Unreal 4 engine, but they're not looking great. There's pop-in, there's all of those things. I mean, you're laying down shooting a sheep from half a mile away, it runs away, you then have to spend ages chasing after it and sniffing its poo. That should be an instant avoid, shouldn't it? But I mean, yeah, avoid it, but or you could just join me. Yeah, avoid it or buy it. It's up to you. So that's it for this week. Let me know down in the comments. Again, if you want to be part of that competition, just leave a very, very unusual comment. And as always, for all things Switch, a big thanks to our patrons as well who support us each and every month. We really do appreciate it. And for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!